ब्रेक तो बाद सारे ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਮਿਡ ਟਰਮਸ ਐਂਡ ਆਨਗੋਇੰਗ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਗਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜੂਨ 28 ਜੋ ਕਿ ਅਗਲੇ ਟਿਊਜ਼ਡੇ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਜੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਲੋਕਲੀ ਖੜੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਗੜ ਰਿਚਮੰਡ ਹਿੱਲ ਸਾਊਥ ਈਸਟ ਕੁਈਨਸ ਏਰੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਜੁੜ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ लगातार शेयर भी कर रहे हैं सो अज भी मैनू बहुत खुशी हो रही है कि साडे स्टूडियो पहुंचे हैं एक इहो जिही कैंडिडेट रनिंग फॉर न्यूयॉर्क स्टेट असैम्बली मिजान चौधरी फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मिजान जी वेलकम टू द स्टूडियो वेलकम टू द प्रोग्राम सत श्री अकाल
वाहेगुरु जी का
खालसा वाहेगुरु जी की फतेह मिजान I can tell you have been interacting with the Punjabi community
yes very much
even though you have a Bangladeshi background you are looking to represent your district 24 at the state level in New York, and that district is a very diverse area. I'd love to hear a little bit about that, but before we get to that, tell us about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background as a political candidate.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, and thank Jus TV for allowing me to come and talking to your audience and of course with you. Well, my background, I'm in technology. I'm a technology manager for one of the Fortune 500 companies in New York State. Been working in the corporate world for the last 22 years. When I first came to this country, I started working as a busboy.
Wow.
And then I started going to school, did my computer degrees, and then did multiple certifications, and then started working as a network engineer, then network specialist, now as a technology manager. But beside that, I'm very involved in the community. I'm a community activist. I'm the president of Community Alliance Group. It's we built that group about 4 years ago. What we do basically, it's a non-profit, but it's a political organization. We do a lot of work with the communities like Punjabi community, Bangladeshi community, different communities.
Right.
What we do basically, we make people aware of the importance of going out and vote.
Absolutely.
Not only that, last 2 years during pandemic, we did a lot of work like food distribution, mask distribution, reaching out to people who needed help with, like small businesses, they needed like some
basic information about access
stuff.
To resources,
yes,
things like
yes,
that.
Yes, these are the stuffs I've been doing. But I also ran for Congress in 2018,
oh, wow.
and it was a quick ran like within like 3 months campaign.
Yeah.
But this year I'm very excited about this race because most importantly this race is so important to our communities, especially with the South Asian communities, because if you look at Richmond Hill, South Richmond Hill, Ozone Park, Briarwood, Jamaica Hills, Jamaica States, all these cities are mostly South Asian people, right? Most of the demographics are South Asian in this area. But unfortunately, we do not have our own representation. And that's the reason I'm running for this office. And I know that we're going to win this.
Mizan, you've mentioned a little bit about community organizing, right? And this is a very important word that you've used here. Most folks, when they think of a community organizer, especially in our community, in the South Asian, community, don't understand the kind of work that you're doing or perhaps the kind of understanding that you have about the community's needs.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear from you, especially now with this campaign for State Assembly for District 24.
Yes.
What would you say are some of the main needs, especially today when not only is the country grappling with record high inflation, it's more divided than ever politically going into the midterms.
Correct.
The lack of resources, you hear every day about budget cuts to things that immigrant families rely on, like public school.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So what would you say, according to you, are some of the big needs of this district?
Well, the most important needs for our districts, especially for our communities, are fundings. As you know, that New York State and New York City has discretional funds. And a lot of time, our communities, we do not get those funds. These funds are basically designed to support non-profit organizations like, you know, children organization, youth organization,
houses of worship,
houses of worships, right? It could be like a gurudwara, mosque, temple, church, any one of those organizations. These fundings are designed, but unfortunately we do not get any of this. Every time I go every locations and I ask them, I go to gurudwaras all the time and I ask them, when was the last time you got some fundings from New York State or New York City? I was told that during pandemic, all these organizations did not get a single penny. Some of them organizations, they might get some money for the security cameras and all. I mean, come on, these are not the real funding we need. We need funding for our communities from New York State and New York City. And I know that the reason we are not getting it because we do not have anybody sitting at the table.
What's the famous saying? You know, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu.
You are on the menu, yes.
You know,
yes.
I think it's definitely high time, Mizan, that while it's great our community has allies that represent us in government at all levels, state level, federal level, local level.
Absolutely.
But I think it's high time that members of our own community, folks that look like you and me, represent us.
Should be at the table, sitting at the table, making decisions for our communities. Information has to come down. The problem is right now information are getting stuck on the top. We are not getting it, even though a lot of people are involved with the government, but unfortunately they are not even getting those information because they are not getting those information. The information is getting stopped. So that's the reason we have to have people from our community, you know, get elected. Because when you have 80% people in your district, 80% demographics are Asian, South Asian, Black and Latino. If you do not have people of color, let's put it this way, people of color. When you have 80% people who look like us and you do not have your own representation, guess what? End of the day, you're not going to get what you were looking for. It's not, I'm not saying that, like, I'm not blaming anybody and I'm not blaming about the color. I'm blaming that not many people know what needed in your community. And that's the reason we have to have, and why not? We all are citizen. We all are.
We pay taxes.
We pay taxes.
We're members of this society.
Absolutely. We are doing our fair share. Why not we get our fair share too? And that is the reason I'm running. That's the number one thing, right? Number two is, as you know, that crime in this city is sky high. But I'm sure you know why. Because of the bail reform. Because of the bail reform, today the perpetrators, the offenders are on the streets. They are getting arrested by, I mean, I have tons of friends who are part of NYPD officers, a lot of friends. I always talk to them, guys, what are you doing? They are saying, like, listen, we are arresting people, but unfortunately when they are going to court, guess what? They're getting out. We cannot, our hands are tied. And sometimes even NYPD officers, they are reluctant to arrest because they know the outcome. But end of the day, all these repeat offenders are keep coming back to our community and repeating the same offense over and over again. And that's the reason we are in this mess. As you know, I'm sure you know, Richmond Hills area last 2-3 months.
The hate crimes against
the elderly Sikh members. I have a couple of my friends. I've been to Gurudwara multiple times during the press conference and everything. And I saw this gentleman. They are like, one gentleman, he came from Canada to visit his family. He was attacked. He was attacked. He was in the hospital, you know, and then another 2-3 gentlemen together in one day, same area, they got attacked. Similar thing happened in Hillside Avenue. One of the gentlemen from Bangladesh, he was a freedom fighter. He's such a lovely person. You know, everybody loves him. He was attacked and he was in the ICU for like multiple weeks. These are the things happening in our community because of this bail reform. And guess who was co-sponsor for the bail reform? Our current assembly person. He is #1 co-sponsor for this bail reform. When they did this, they did not even think about that what is the outcome for this.
Long-term
impact. And that's why I think it's very important. When I go to Albany, my first act as an assembly person will be, I want to push a bill what is going to repeal and reform this bail reform what we have right now.
Very interesting. Mizan, you're talking a little bit about your opponent, and you know, I think it's worth noting for the viewers here, जो अगले हफ्ते इलेक्शन होने जा रहे इट्स अ प्राइमरी सो एक डेमोक्रेटिक कैंडिडेट्स दे विचाले हो रहा है डेमोक्रेटिक कैंडिडेट्स भी in a district as diverse as district 24 ਇੱਥੇ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਈਨਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੈਟਿਕ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਇੱਕ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਹੋਣ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮਸ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਾਫੀ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਸੋ ਮਿਜ਼ਾਨ ਚੌਧਰੀ ਦਾ ਜੋ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਅਪੋਨੈਂਟ ਤੋਂ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਦੂਜੀ ਤਰਫ ਖੜਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੈਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਾਫੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਰਕ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਵਾਂਗੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਲਈ ਰੁਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਜਾਓ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਨਵਰਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਾਰੀ ਰਹੇਗੀ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਉਸ ਪਾਰ ब्रेक तो बाद एक बार फिर सारे स्वागत करते हैं साढ़े नाल अज स्टूडियो के विच पहुंचे हुए साढ़े गेस्ट मिजान चौधरी रनिंग फॉर न्यूयॉर्क स्टेट असेंबली डिस्ट्रिक्ट 24 Mizan, you walked us through your background as a community organizer. You've had previous experience running for Congress in the state of New York, but now you're running for state assembly, which arguably, you know, we love to say this, remind people over and over again, the individuals that represent folks at the city level, at the state level, have more of an impact on their day-to-day lives.
Yes.
Right? Even though the stuff you hear about the presidential races and the Senate races, these big races, that's the stuff that mainstream media covers, but your day-to-day life is affected by folks like you.
Yes.
Once you get to state assembly or you're in the city level representing us. So let's talk a little bit about the candidate that you're standing up against, what they've been doing for this community that affects their day-to-day lives, and how you hope to change that should you make it to Albany.
Well, I mean, absolutely. Look, my opponent, he's been there for a long time. It's like, what, 4 or 5 times already?
David Weprin.
David Weprin. He's been there for a long time. The biggest bill what he brought is the bail reform. I just talked about. And today we are in this mess because of that. And when I become an assembly person, I want to make sure that we repeal and reform it. That's very important. Second thing is, look, our community need resources. Our businesses are struggling. If you go to Richmond Hills area, if you go to Hillside, Jamaica area, you see businesses are shutting down, small businesses. Restaurants are shutting down. But billions of dollars was given by the federal funding. Where are those funds? How come our businesses did not get it? Now every time when we talk about it, we say, oh, these businesses are not getting it because their paperwork are not in order, these are not in order, that are all these excuses, bunch of excuses we hear. But why not helping them, when your businesses, small businesses are struggling, economy on this district goes down automatically.
Absolutely.
And then you have the other resources which we talked about earlier, that funds for
federal funding, grants,
state funding for non-profit organizations. A lot of organizations, non-profit are struggling. My opponent, he has been there. Every time he is coming to our community, he's been talking about one bill he had done, like Garber bill, which is like the religious bill. You know about it. That was done a long time ago. Why keep talking about it? Why not talk about what is happening right now? What are we doing with our youth? What are you doing with the crime? Our youth are struggling in South Asian community because a lot of them graduating from school, graduating from college.
With no jobs.
With no jobs. But do you know why? Because they are getting out of college without any skills. Because they are graduating from college, they don't have enough skills. And because of that, they are not getting jobs. Look at me. I mean, I did my master's from back home. I came to this country. I studied computers. I did certification. That's why I am a prime example. And I want, when I go to Albany, I want to push a bill where we can have the vocational education, available for this youth.
Absolutely.
Who are graduating from high school, graduating from college. So that we can create skilled laborers. We don't have to look at other countries and ask for skilled laborers when we need computer, software testing, hardware, engineering, electrician job, plumbing job. These are the jobs. So when we educate our youth, guess what they're going to do? They're not going to go towards drugs.
Of course.
They're not going to go towards violence. So that we have to have something. Why not our current assembly person, did that. He never did that because he doesn't care. I mean, you know,
it's interesting you make this appeal, right, for vocational training, and the timing couldn't be better because recently you hear more and more that maybe a traditional four-year college isn't for everyone.
It's not for
when
everyone,
you graduate
yes.
with hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans and you
Yes.
can't find a job in this kind of market, maybe it's better to have a technical or a vocational skill,
Absolutely.
at least have access to that training. But for a lot of families, especially South Asian immigrant families, that's not something that they can afford right off the bat.
Exactly.
So you're saying one of the focuses you
Yes.
want to hone in on is providing resources.
Yes.
So
yes,
these
absolutely.
kids
Yeah.
coming out of high school and college, or maybe a two-year college, can have access
to all
these
this
type of.
well, I mean, you know, city and so New York State can come up with programs like that. You know, funding is of course available, and there are fundings available for that too. There are some fundings available for educational programs, like you know, as you know, the blockchain is a big thing right now. Nano technologies are a big thing. Billions of dollars are there, millions of dollars are available there, but unfortunately this money is not coming to our community. Like I said earlier, the information is not passing on to the communities.
Right.
And that's the reason we need all these programs to be available for our community.
Right.
And that's why we need representation. And if you look at that, the people, like the color, the you know, youth of color, right? The people from our communities, all the youths, they're the one who's impacted more.
Of course.
Because, you know, they're the one who's graduating from high school, graduating from college, they're not getting jobs. So they some of them hardworking, they're like jumping onto different odd jobs.
Right.
You know, some of them, they don't want to do that kind of job. So guess what, which way they're going towards? Drugs and violence and these and that, all this stuff. But only way we can prevent it by getting those programs.
Right.
You know, helping all these youths. Another thing, seniors, right? We do not have senior centers.
Yeah.
If you see our, I mean, Gurudwara, I mean, I heads off to Gurudwaras. I mean, you know, every time I go, I love the chais and, you know, all the food available for the communities, and people are enjoying it.
Yeah.
You know, but I doubt that these are the fundings are coming from the state
this
or
is
the
all
city.
private,
These are all private,
private contributions.
contributions, right? Now, we need senior centers.
Right.
Our seniors where they can hang out, they can go.
And
they
they
can
have
talk.
resources, basic resources,
Exactly.
you know, whether it's health related, social related, economic related. I couldn't agree with you more regarding the senior centers. That's definitely a big need for the community. Mizan, you know, you mentioned this kind of block in information, right?
Yes.
That all these resources are out there. We love saying America is the greatest country in the world, because these things exist.
Yes.
But somewhere along the way, if we're not availing them, we are responsible to an extent as well, in the sense that there is a tendency, especially in the South Asian community. I don't think Bangladeshi versus Punjabi or Hindi or
Every
what have you,
community has
Pakistani
that.
is too different, where we get to this country, we struggle to get on our feet, be financially stable, to become, you know, legally stable here, pakke hona, how we say it in Hindi or Punjabi.
Right.
Once you get that green card, you get that citizenship, folks think, all right, I'm done. I don't have to do anything else.
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, as someone who is a community organizer, you seem genuinely frustrated that there's resources out there for us. We're just not taking advantage of them.
Getting it.
Speak to this mindset of we don't have to vote, we don't have to know about our candidates or participate in the political process. How do you respond to that? Whether you're talking to a Bangladeshi member of the community, a Sikh, Punjabi member, a Hindi member, Nepali, Pakistani, any person of color.
Well, I mean, I would definitely appeal to the communities, like especially our communities who lives in the city. Look, when you are a citizen and you have power to vote, that's your power. You know, vote is your democratic right. When you vote, you don't have rights to you have rights to complain, basically. When you vote, you have rights to complain. If you don't vote, you do not have rights to complain. Now, I would say if you are registered to vote, please make sure you vote. It doesn't matter who you vote. Whenever you are voting, your vote actually counts, and then resources from your in your area comes from the city or state based on how many people are voting. Because the elected officials, they look at the
data,
the you know, like all the data, the analytics and everything, and then based on that, the resources come in. Now, when you are voting, you know, you are not voting just for me, or you are not voting for other people who are running. You are voting for yourself, your family, because resources, what we just talked about, all these resources comes from the government based on how many people are participating in the democratic process. And also, sometimes the elected officials, they're also afraid, because if they don't give you resources, guess what? Next time, you can take them out. And that's also another trick we have to play, right? And a lot of communities that do that. If you go to Southeast Queens area, voting rate is very high. They go out and vote, actually, and that's why they get a lot of resources. Our community, especially South Asian communities, like you said earlier, that we got the citizenship, we are happy, we are, you know, as a family, but you know, that's great. We are happy for all of us. We are happy for everybody, but we also can be happy for our community.
Let's talk a little bit about the power of our different communities coming together, right? Because the issues that affect, whether it's Bangladeshi or Punjabi or Hindu or Pakistani, the issues are the same, right? We want, once again, a good, safe place for us to raise our family, our kids, for our elders to be able to walk down the street without having fear of getting beat up or targeted, our places of worship being safe and getting funding, because they are nonprofits and they are members of this society. So the things we need are the same, but sometimes we think, oh, they're Bangladeshi, we are Sikh, you know, there is a big difference. When we talk about the political makeup of this country, what can we gain by coming together as these small minorities within a minority?
Yes, absolutely. And I have a flyer here, if you know, right underneath, if you can see, I think the other one, if you don't mind. There you go, look at that. So what I did is, before I, you know, like started running for office, we put together one of the slate. If you can take a look, every communities are represented here. Communities of color, like every communities. We have, you know, like Asian community, Punjabi community, Bangladeshi community, Jewish community, and this is for one side of the district, side A. And then we have a B side where we have gentleman who's from Sikh community running as a district leader. There is a female you know, from Sikh community running as a district leader. And then we have judicial delegates, and that was my idea. I put together this slate. I went into every communities and I asked them, some of my friends over here, I asked them that, how can we put together a slate where we can represent not only state level position, we can also represent like county-wide position, like county committee members, judicial delegate, party positions like district leaders, right? We have 4 district leaders, 2 female and 2 male in an assembly, side A and side B. We put that together. Why? Because we realize that if we do not work together, there is no way we can achieve what we are looking for. Because look, community of color, you just talked about earlier, which I said that 80% Asian, South Asian, Black and Latino. If this community come out, and then if this community comes out and then they all go out and vote, and they tell people, their friends and family, do you not think that we can achieve what we are looking for? I tell people that, look, I'm going to get elected for 2 years. Within 2 years, help me do whatever we need to achieve, right? If in 2 years, if I cannot do what I am asking, what I am saying that I can do, 2 years later, we can have you run for office or have somebody else run for office from our own community. But let us first take this position, because
let's get the seat in the house.
In the house first, right? I mean, well said. That very nicely you said it. Let's get the seat in the house first. Once we have this seat in the house, then we can, you know, we can talk about, we can think about who's
then
doing.
We can figure out what needs to be done with it. Absolutely.
Exactly. And this year, these assembly races are very important, because I don't know if you, I'm sure you know that because of the redistricting,
Yes.
our community has been sliced and
Split
diced
up.
split up into different districts.
Right.
But 24 district is the only district where we have an opportunity still, because this district has opportunity still to have our own representation. If we can achieve this goal, if we can get this seat for ourselves, if we can have multiple people from this slate winning, then next year we have city council races are coming.
Right.
We can go to our mayor and say, look, South Asian needs multiple districts.
Absolutely.
We need a district where South Asian can run, multiple South Asian can run and win. It's not that, okay, multiple South Asians are running, now another community, somebody else is running and they're winning.
Yeah.
We cannot have that. We need couple of seats. So let's say when I become an assembly person, I'm going to go to the mayor. I'm going to sit down with our mayor and I'm going to say, Mr. Mayor, please help us, or the council, city council,
Right.
that help us, or the commission that help us, so that we can have our own district, where we can have our resources, we can help our own community, because the demographics in the districts, majority of us,
Absolutely.
and that's very important, and that's why you put this together.
I'm glad you shared that slate with our viewers, and I do want to mention here, is slate te Punjabi bhi hai, Amritpal Singh, Harmanpreet Singh, ete apni Muslim bibiyan bhi han, like you said, Jewish,
Yes.
African American, Hispanic. So this is a very diverse slate, and the point here is, before you can go and represent us and help us, we as a community need to come together.
Yes.
Whether it's Punjabi community, with the Bangladeshi community, with the African or the Latino community, we need to come together. So I would love for you, Mizan, in closing, to share information on how we can come together, what folks need to do or know for next week's primary.
So I would like to definitely appeal to you, voters. Most importantly, it doesn't matter who you are, which community you're from, but most importantly, think about diversity and representation. Think about what is happening in your district right now, especially with the public safety. My number one priority is public safety. When I become an assembly person, I want to go to Albany and push the bill where we can repeal and reform that bill, what is causing all these repeat offenders keep coming back to our community and creating a chaotic situation. Our children, our youth, they're vulnerable. They're not able to go to the street, and you are witnessing this. So I would recommend everyone, please go out and vote. Early vote started already since Saturday. It will go until June 26th. We have about 7 different early poll sites. You can definitely go to Vote NYC, and you can put your address, and you will know exactly where your poll site is. Now, June 28th is the election day. From 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. is going to be the election day. I'm sure your nearest public school is going to be your poll site, or like I said, that if you go to Vote NYC, you can put your address. You will know exactly where your poll site is. I would say, please go out and vote. Vote is your democratic right. We have to. Change is very important. It is time for change, and if we want to change, then we have to go out and vote and elect our own representation. Elect our entire slate. We have so many people from Punjabi communities running. We have Rabneet Kaur, we have Sukhjinder Singh, we have a few other people who are, like judicial delegate. We have Amritpal Singh, we have, Harmanpreet Singh. All these people are running for judicial delegate. We have district leaders position. Every positions are available for us to grab. When you go out and vote, guess what? These people are going to win, and these are the people, the leadership we are creating, the pipeline what we are just creating. They're the one who's going to represent next year in city council and the years to come for different positions. So I would highly encourage everybody, please go out and vote. Vote for me, Mizanur Choudhury. Mizanur Choudhury is my name on the ballot. And then you can vote our slate. If you want to know more about me, please go to www.mizan4ny.com, where you can have a lot of information. If you have any question, please reach out to my campaign, info@mizan4ny.com, or you can call us. There is a toll-free number there. You can call us. We will be happy to support you, help you. If you need a ride, my team is available, and get us elected so that we can fight for our community. And I am counting on you. We are counting on you. We know that you will help us, support us, and get us elected, and we'll create a history together.
Creating history together.
Yes.
What a strong finish. And I think definitely now is the time, if there ever was one, in the political landscape that we're seeing. Mizan Choudhury, so good to have you in the
Thank you so
studio.
much.
Thank you for
so
coming,
much. Yes.
speaking to our community. Thank you for all the times that you've engaged with the Sikh, the Punjabi community here in New York City, and you've offered them any information, resources to get them more empowered in this landscape. Once again, जिस election ਲਈ Mizan Choudhury खड़े हो रहे ਹਨ, it's the Democratic primary election in New York taking place June 28th, ਅਗਲੇ Tuesday ਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ. State Assembly ਲਈ ਇਹ ਖੜੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ. ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਤੋਂ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, mizan4ny.com ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ. Once again, we wish you the best of luck. Do join us and let us know how it goes. ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਛੋਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਲਈ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੁਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ. ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਥੋੜੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਉਸ ਪਾਰ.